right. Thank you so much for taking the time. What I wanted to talk to you about today wasn't just your company, the Boston Film Family in particular. I've kind of talked about that on Twitter before in the past, but and for everyone just hearing, this is Richard Chandler of the Boston Film Family. You actually have an upcoming film, Parts Unknown. Now, for everyone who's unfamiliar with your work or who hasn't seen things like Legless or Witch Hunt, I believe it was. Am I right there?
Yeah, those are movies I directed.
Okay, excellent. Can you bring us up to speed a little bit about what Parts Unknown is about without, just like the basic IMDb description that us indie fans have already kind of memorized?
Okay, well, Parts Unknown, it's, well, if you don't mind, could I, talk about the transgression of how things have been going in terms of the content of my movies for 1 minute?
I would absolutely love that. Any kind of interjection is perfect.
Okay, cool. You mentioned Legless, which is something I have not heard of in a while. See, Legless was, it was like, we did a couple comedies, oh man, I mean, I want to say they were, 7 to 9 years ago at this point, and then, the movies really have been getting more and more, progressively dark, so, this past 5 years, they've been getting progressively dark, so Parts Unknown, um, keeping that in mind, it's really kind of it's where I think a lot of these concepts, these kind of apocalyptic, dark, kind of nihilistic concepts are kind of coming to a head, and it's in the form of this family of wrestlers that's really down on their luck. So they, they're like this big kind of, they'd be like wrestling royalty, you know what I mean? Like in the world of wrestling, people would be, wanting their autograph, they'd want interviews. So basically they've all lost their positions in the big companies, and now they're doing these lower budget indie shows, and they've turned to drugs and alcohol and different things like that, and they haven't, they miss being in the spotlight, and of course that void that they're trying to fill is filled with eventually, you know, killing people and
Yeah,
stuff along those
naturally.
lines. But it gets a lot darker than that. That's how it kind of is.
Okay, I love it. I just rewatched the trailer since I think the first time I watched it was not long after you premiered it, and I just rewatched it, and I love how it also has a very vintage feel to it. And I'm kind of a dope when it comes to film terminology, So is it cinematography? Is that what I'd call it? Where did you draw inspiration for, not just storyline, but the actual style that you put together and the atmosphere you brought to this film?
Probably a couple of different things. Like one of the big things, and we do have this style of music in the film, but it's kind of like a post-punk type of music called dark wave, and it's kind of futuristic, but kind of it can be grungy. So it's something that you can dance to, but at the same time, it's kind of dark. It probably got its roots in the original electronic goth music that was around in the '80s. So it has that '80s kind of sound to it. And I think a lot of the artists, they use a lot of neon colors. They try and make it look futuristic and that type of stuff. So I think that's really where we got that that idea from. And we tried to put the colors, the bright colors and the cool cinematography and stuff in there, with the dark wave music. And that was one of the big goals of mine, and to kind of put it together so it's kind of like an album cover come to life. And I think it helps with this particular movie because this particular movie, it's very grungy, but it also, in a weird way, it's futuristic, or the idea of technology plays into it anyways. So there's that underlying theme throughout it. So it kind of does eventually, towards the end of the movie, tie into it.
Now, where did you this is what things I was wondering for myself. Where did you first draw the inspiration from this film? Like this is so different. I have actually never stumbled across like a horror film that's gonna deal with otherworldly or supernatural forces and it's all backed by wrestlers. Was there any real life inspiration, whether it be wrestlers or was there a story or something that just kind of brought this on?
A lot of my movies have like a supernatural element to them that influences the human characters that like exist in it. So I think like I always wanted to do a wrestling movie to like some extent, and I think when like I started writing it, like what often happens with the supernatural elements, they just kind of like found their way in there. And I'm trying to think if there's like anything that really like inspired that in particular. I don't really know as far as the supernatural stuff, but in terms of wrestling, like I think a lot of times people don't realize like how dark professional wrestling has been, like the personal side of it. Um, Maybe not so much in 2018, but just like a lot of stuff that the performers went through. Just the what they had to do. Especially in front of small crowds, and the lifestyles that they had to lead to please people. And it's very like dark subject material. Um, and one of the wrestlers that really comes to mind who kind of lived the gimmick a little bit was Jake the Snake Roberts, who does a voiceover in this movie. So I guess like in a way, perhaps that was a little. I don't know if I even answered the question, but that was like perhaps a little bit of the inspiration to like put like the dark subject material in a quasi wrestling movie.
I adored it, and honestly, like, it answered the question. Even if it didn't, it was genuine answer anyway. So I think that's good enough for all of us that we can actually learn something. And
Cool.
I also feel like when you go off the rails, like I don't want to stop you because you're giving us more content like we wouldn't have known about the film or even thought to ask. So that being said, now, the trailer doesn't show too much of like the action and the force behind the scenes. Was there any crazy like stunt training or workouts or anything that any of the actors had to undergo to play these parts?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. A lot of the actors were actually professional wrestlers, or they were at one point, which might, for like kind of a, it's something that for a lot of like New England movies, people might not think of it, as running that deep. But the casting was very meticulous in that regard. Will Dukoff, who plays one of the leads in the film, he was a wrestler for a long time, as well as Sarah Michelle, who plays one of the leads as well, and Lizzie Havoc was we actually cast Lizzie, who was kind of brought into this because she was a wrestler. The other two, I like they were actors who wrestled, so it was kind of like yeah, they were approached like they were people that I either had worked with a lot in the case of Sarah, or in the case of Will, I knew them, so I wanted to pull them into this, and it was a really good idea. It made a gigantic difference because like they knew that they had to get in the right physical condition to do the film, and they had their own workouts, but we also had like rehearsals to get to like practice, so people can get off the ring rust and stuff, and be ready to do their stuff, and that was provided by Will himself and John Callahan, who runs a wrestling school in Woonsocket.
Did you get in and practice any moves with your actors? Like, I need to know. I'm trying to picture you with your leather coat, and they're like, "Come on, do it." And you're like, "All right, fine." Did you ever jump in there with them and get your hands dirty?
I took a couple bumps to see what it felt like.
Yes, I knew you would.
It's been a while. I did it before. I didn't wrestle, but I won a contest in college to wrestle a match, and it was like I'll tell you one thing: the ring is a lot harder than it looks. So, yeah. So I got in there and I did it a little bit again, and I said, hey, I don't want to be the only one not taking a bump here, and yeah. So it was. What was I gonna say about that? I'm kind of like I'm loosely involved in indie wrestling myself, but only recently. But it's not as a wrestler. It's as more of like a quote unquote general manager. Somebody who makes matches so the storyline progresses, and that's so I've always been a fan of it. I've always it's show business. It's not any different than acting. It's just a different type of entertainment. It's its own form of entertainment. So
Athletic acting.
it's like athletic acting where you
Yeah,
get seriously hurt. Yeah.
exactly. Athletic acting, but the risk is always there. Speaking of the risk, I mean, it's such a dangerous profession too, and for those who just do it as a hobby, everyone knows how risky it is. Were there any crazy accidents, or even on the brighter side, maybe like a funnier story about maybe some of the moves or stunts that didn't quite go down as planned on set?
I'm trying to think about on set. I'm not sure if anybody got seriously hurt or even close, which is almost a miracle.
Yeah, that
Which is
right?
almost a miracle. I was sweating it out a couple times. Because with filmmaking, you have to shoot something like 9 times. So it's like, yeah, they had to fall down 9 times and then move on to the next take. So it was for the next shot. So it was, I'm surprised nobody got really hurt. Um, but yeah, I think I don't know what I can talk about on this. Can I like swear and talk about
You
like
can
fucking
say anything you want. I'm very opposed to censorship, and I mean, for the cause of the greater good here, support an indie film. The door is fucking wide open, buddy.
Okay, good, because I do have one funny story about the rehearsals
Oh, I'm
when
so excited.
that we had like all custom wardrobe made for this entire movie, including like the wrestling gear. But at the rehearsals, I guess things weren't perfected yet because it was months before we shot, and the when Sarah and Lizzie were having their match, when they wore the actual like costumes, it was like riding up their crotches so bad that we started hashtagging like whenever sometimes when I post about parts unknown, that's why it says like hashtag pussies out for parts unknown.
Oh my
It
god, I'm
was like
hashtagging
from
that everywhere.
so it was like from that because it was just that was our big like fatality from the wrestling. So luckily nobody got hurt at least, but there was which that didn't happen in the movie, but this was like more of a rehearsal thing, but
Oh my
that
gosh, I always wondered how women stop from like getting that floss and like that whole like clam floss going on. Like I think they like wear tights or like spray like so I'm like, how are these women not like suffering from such camel toe? But that is hilarious. That is probably one of my favorite behind the scenes like mentions I think I've heard. Pussy is out for parts unknown. I can get down with that. I like that. Now,
yeah, it's a unique hashtag, and like throughout the whole, there's probably more instances of it like off and on throughout the movie, but it was I think that was just ridiculous, and like thankfully they weren't like too self conscious or anything,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it was
they
one of
weren't
those
too
things that
upset.
was like, oh boy.
And now they have this hilarious story that they can share with everyone. They're like, you don't know the trials of acting. Don't you tell me it's easy work. Do you know what happened to me? Pussy's out for parts unknown. Um,
Exactly.
and it's not even that kind of film, guys. We were just getting lucky, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean that's not in the actual movie. That was
No.
just like a rehearsal, but
Oh, that's good. Okay, so the Parts Unknown premiere is actually coming up really quick, and I'm terrible with dates, so off the head, I want to say because I did RSVP actually, full disclosure, it's June 9th. Is that correct? Could you tell us?
that is correct. June
Yes.
9. Very, very nice. There's two screenings the same night at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. and it's at the Capitol Theater in Arlington, Massachusetts. We have a Facebook event, and there's links on there to Eventbrite where people can buy tickets. They show up at the door. I just think that you can, but like I just don't know what will happen by the time that day rolls around.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. That's really exciting. Are you guys screening with any other films, or is this is just a big deal for Parts Unknown and everyone's gonna be showing up for your red carpet affair?
I don't really do the red carpet thing, but it is about just it is just parts unknown.
I kind of do the Cinta's carpet thing in my life, so I can relate.
Yeah, I've done the whole like everybody wear a suit before, and now I'm just like I don't care anymore. Like whatever, it's just I'm not gonna make people dress up. If they want to, they can, but I'm not gonna. But
Oh,
yeah, it's all about parts unknown. Um, and that's it. I think I'm gonna play like a short or two that we made throughout the year before, but they're like a minute each,
do you
so
have
nothing long.
any in mind? Because I've seen a few of your shorts and I absolutely adored them. I would love to if there's
Oh,
just
you have seen
yes.
them? Okay.
Well, the most recent one I just saw was when Hobo screened at I can't remember which convention. I think it was Rock and Shock, and it was hilarious. And you not only wrote and directed, but you actually starred in that one, if I remember correctly.
Hobo, yeah, I was very good at just sitting there in the chair as everybody else did everything. But
It was
yeah,
so funny though. It was such a good one.
yeah, these are like that. They're like kind of funny, but they're
They're
also
pretty
horror.
dark.
So they're kind of like Hobo, yeah, in a way.
Oh my gosh, that's great. So you don't have any little titles just poking around, maybe some that you were proud of that didn't quite get the notoriety that they deserve?
Yeah, these ones we did in this last like maybe 300 days or so. One's called Model for the Apocalypse and one's called Furry. I don't think anyone's seen Furry because we just did it, I think, in January, and the other one we did right before Parts Unknown, so it got a little overshadowed. I don't think it had, they had any play. I think, well, Model for the Apocalypse played at Rock and Shock, but I think that's it. So, it could play before this. It has a couple of the same people involved and stuff, so it makes sense.
So for the premiere, they're having the two different showtimes, and I'm just gonna be assuming that, I mean, they're so close together, you're gonna be present for both, yeah?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay. Now after the premiere, is there anything you want to shout out locally? Are you guys gonna be maybe having an after party, meet up at a bar, maybe any kind of giveaways or events going on with the premiere?
Uh, we might go someplace afterwards. I haven't really thought about that too much. But I
Ooh,
think last
planted the
time
seed now.
what? Yeah, plant the seed. We went to someplace in Davis Square in Somerville last time, and it was decent. So, maybe I'll go back to that same place. But let's see, what is it? A Saturday night? Yeah, that might make more sense than going into Boston on a Saturday night. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. I don't think there's any. I had a T-shirt giveaway. That's done now though. I will have DVDs at the premiere. For Parts Unknown. Like we're making them now, so we could actually like sell them there if somebody wanted to buy it.
That's awesome. I'll buy one, of course. If once I'm there, I'll buy one. I like buying
Oh,
stuff.
awesome.
I'm the most financially irresponsible human ever, but I'm so proud of my DVD collection that it just levels out that pain for me. So I'm definitely getting one. So hopefully a bunch of other people
That's
get some
good.
with us too.
Oh yeah.
All right. So, speaking of t-shirts, I only have a couple minutes left, but I actually almost totally forgot about this. So you mentioned t-shirt. I just saw online that you guys have a new line out. They're adorable. You may or may not be the one modeling them in the photo. Can you tell everyone where to get them?
Yes, myself and fashion designer Jenny French made this made up like a small line of t-shirts that are like custom made and screened. And on the first one, um, we finished and we released it on the website last week, and it is a reference to the Infinity War storyline, obviously a reference to the movie everyone's talking about, but this I'll say it's more of a reference to the comic because that's actually true. But yeah, you can get that, or you can check that out on bostonfilmfamily.com-shop. So that's where we have them right now, and we got them in every size. So if people want to check that out, it is a shirt that says "In Love with Death," and it has the Infinity Gauntlet on it. So I think that yeah, thanks for bringing that up. That's a nice plug.
You're very welcome. Yeah, the shirts actually look really comfy too. They don't look like those crummy material ones. So, yeah, maybe I'll have to get my hands on my shirt so I can show up at one of the next conventions wearing that one.
Yes,
Yeah, and they'll be
that
like,
would be
"Where'd you get
awesome.
that?" And I'll be like, oh, "Actually, that filmmaker's at this convention." Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, Ricard, if that is your real name.
Ricard.
I am going to bid you adieu. Thank you so much for being patient. I know no one else knows, but before we were able to just clumsily stumble into the beginning of this interview, we had technical problems and tried to call several times. So I'm so glad we actually got this to go through because we found out some awesome insights about parts unknown.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm glad we actually connected. And, I like this phone interview so much more than writing it out. Like I've written out so many things. It's just like so blah. So I'm glad we got to talk on the phone.
Me too. And my problem has always been, and as much as I love written interviews, it's just traditionally my answers they never seem candid by the time I get them back. So that's why I try
Right.
and steer away from it too, because I it just sounds like it's rehearsed. I'd rather listen to someone stutter and giggle over their real answer than read something that sounds like it was rehearsed. So again, I am so glad we were able to get this done and talk to you and find out more about parts unknown. So, before we go, can you tell everyone where they can find you across social media?
Sure. You can find me on the glorious Book of Faces if you'd like. Our fan page is at Boston Undead, as well as Instagram and Twitter. I suggest Facebook and probably Instagram, where I am most active. But feel free to hit me up there. And yeah, that's it. And again, it's bostonfilmfamily.com if you want to look at any of the, read anything about anything we've done, or take a look at the shop or anything like that.
Or, RSVP to the awesome premiere on June 9th.
Right, that too. Thank you for reminding me.
Thank you so much. I will actually be seeing you in person next month for the premiere. And otherwise,
Awesome.
thank you. I can't wait to share this news with all of our listeners and readers. You have an amazing time.
You too. Thank you very much for the interview. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. Bye, Rick.
All right, bye.